Adelante.
Buenos días.
Good morning. Good morning, all. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be addressing the issue of our earnings 2024. Those of you who are with us, of course, good morning. And those of you who are with us via remote, good morning also. Now, the fact of the matter is that what I can say at this point, cold, rainy Madrid morning, is that we're delighted with our earnings. We're delighted. How can I be clear? I think that we can be very proud because these are the best earnings ever in our history. Premiums, total revenues, including financials and earnings as well. We see a consolidation of that positive trend, which in previous quarters had accompanied us, and even last year. So practically, we've seen the local earnings without taking goodwill into account, and in IFRS also practically 1 billion in attributable profits. So we need to think that gross, before thinking about partners and taxes, for the first time ever, surpasses the 2 billion mark, which I can only say is spectacular. Now, it's true that sometimes we complain about the setting. At this point in time, we need to remember that it's reasonable. Often enough, uncertain scenarios, volatile scenarios, but in any case, the cycle continues to be very positive. For the insurance world, and the Mapfre model, actually the business model, diversification and so on, this helps. And there has been an impact of FX on our increase, but it's been good. And well, we're more profitable in practically all markets, all geographies, all products. Latin America, as we said before, has been impacted. It's been hit, if you will, by the loss of value of some of the currencies with regards to the euro and the dollar. But in general, all we can see is an improvement in all of the areas. Technical improvements, development, progress in businesses and markets and units. So, as you know, our commitment, the Mapfre commitment, is ongoing and growing. We have to think about further engaging our shareholders. This is our commitment. Every year, the practically 200,000 shareholders, and the board has again analyzed these results very positively and has recommended that during the shareholders meeting, the dividend be 9.5 per share. So the total dividend against results 2024 be of 16 euro cents, which is, I think, the best ever dividend if we think about our history in Mapfre. All I can say is I'd like to add a comment, which is that I'm delighted. I'm very happy for the employees of Mapfre because practically 45% of Mapfre employees are shareholders. I don't know of any other similar instance. Practically one half of our employees, well, we are all shareholders, and we're going to participate in that payout. On screen, you're going to see the more important numbers. As I said, local and homogenized results, we are mandated to so do, right, in accordance with IFRS. So premiums, for the first time ever, over 28 billion. That's 4.5% growth, and revenues also. We see that the improvement is parallel, about 3%. And for the first time ever, we surpassed the 33 billion euros, which is spectacular. The yearly numbers, if we don't take into account our goodwill, there's been an impairment in Germany, but the results amounted to 92 billion, practically 33% more. But we want to be prudent and we want to be rigorous. We know that there are difficulties in auto in Germany, and this mandates being even more cautious in order to have a little bit less pressure, and that's why we talk about those 90 million in impairment, which are definitely important, and which in any case will help us to lessen the stress, and we certainly expect better numbers in Germany. So without impairment, that's going to be 902 million, 30% more than last year, and the combined ratio, which can only be defined as spectacular, because from 95% was the objective, and we're at 94.4, 3 points less than last year's, and making good, as you see, with our strategic plan. The improvement is manifest, obviously, in our return, in our ROE. Our shareholders see that practically plus 10.9, but it's actually been 12% if we did not include that impairment in goodwill. And the solvency ratio, our capital adequacy ratio, up to September. We won't have information regarding March until some time from now, but it's about 102.4, which is fantastic, very good if we compare with the numbers that we had at the end of last year. So very comfortable, and as you can see, within the objectives set forth by Mapfre. Let me also talk about other issues that have taken place. Our strategic plan that we launched last year, we knew that important and positive and good things were going to be happening, so that's why we were able to anticipate. And we began 2024 with a new plan, and we were right, because it has allowed us to actually align, if you will, ourselves to a new structure. Our objectives, our reassessment of our group's main focus in global terms, and this allowed us to really understand the positive evolution of our strategic plan. So we can, I think, fairly enough, feel comfortable about all of the business areas, all of the regions where Mapfre operates. Growth, for instance, in non-life has been important, 5.6, and we've seen the development and the progress achieved in all, and autos also. Auto has grown globally by over 6%. Life growth has been perhaps more contained, 0.5%, and that, of course, is under the influence of savings. And this is more volatile depending on the circumstances, the product and the market and interest rates, and competition also with financial entities, which explains that growth is that little bit more difficult. But it's also true that 2023 was a wonderful year in Spain, so that affects us also. But our growth rate, if we compare with the market in Spain, life risk has been important, and the profits have been excellent. As I said before, then, there's been that impact, if you will, that depreciation of the real and other currencies, which are very important for us if we compare with the dollar. And had we not had that impairment in constant terms, our growth would have been 2 points more, 6.6%, which is aligned with our objective, our public objective. Now, as to technicals, I can say that everything except autos have combined ratios which are excellent. And with regards auto, we're recovering slowly our profitability in some markets, Spain, Germany, Italy. But in general terms, rest of them, that the combined ratio is from good to excellent. We need, and we are very satisfied. The US, Brazil, and practically all of Latin America, again, doing beautifully. In the case of Spain, then, we will make further comments if you want. But in any case, our combined ratio, which is less than 95, I insist, is within that balance, very positive. And I would underscore LATAM as a region, as a main region that contributes to our numbers, contributes over 400 million euros. Brazil, which is very important, 255, with that improvement, which is technical. And Mexico and Peru and Colombia have also had good numbers, over 50 million in profits, and that net attributable profit. Iberia continues to contribute over 365, very relevant, 3% growth. And I said also, North America, excellent results, 99 million, with an improvement of over 100 if we compare with the previous year. And I would underscore that historical number, premiums, profits, Mapfre Re, specifically reinsurance, and the numbers, including global, very good year, over 325 million. That's 33% more. And then we have Maudi, which is a smaller unit that has also benefited from very good numbers. Other countries that were a bit difficult, Turkey was where it was last year, but macro has helped, and our technical performance has allowed us to overcome those difficulties. So we see that the numbers are appropriate if we think about the country reality. So these good numbers, as I said, allow us to think about sharing with the board an increase in payout. And that is why the board recommends that dividend of 9.5 euro cents in the face of 9 cents last year. And that was 6.5, and total is going to be 16.16 cents. That's going to be the highest ever, practically 500 million euros in total against results. And the payout, as I say, is of about 55%. As I say, the highest ever dividend paid out ever. Average profitability, if you think about price, will be of about 7%. I would underscore that over the past 5 years, the dividends paid out by Mapfre will be in excess of 2.2 billion euros. Now, before I give the floor to Fernando, I would like to talk a little bit about the terrible Dana, the flash flood. This was a catastrophe. This was terrible, a tragedy in our country, which affected basically the region of Valencia. Unfortunately, over 220 lives lost, and it was a wave of destruction. In Spain, fortunately, we have a public-private entity, which is the consortium, which actually deals with those funds, which we in private companies have actually been able to put together. These are amounts that we then transfer to the consortium. There's a very tight working relationship between the consortium and the insurance entities. In the case of Mapfre, over 400 branches on the ground, taking information, making information available, availing ourselves of the protocols in place with the consortium. We have been tremendously active in managing those claims. The payout is always payment rather, is always by the consortium. But our business model, we were there in the neighborhoods, household by household. And this year I will be returning to Valencia. I will be inaugurating the new branches that we've rebuilt after the destruction, even though it was shacks, but we've continued to provide services, not only to our customers, but to citizens in general who had been affected. Over 60,000 claims. That's the numbers that we've seen in the sector, of which Mapfre has directly addressed. 60,000 Mapfre. There have been many, many more, of course. Of those 60,000, 26,000 have not been included under the consortium umbrella. So we've worked very hard with our technical experts. As far as we are concerned, then over 83% of the claims have been completed. We have our way of working. The consortium has a different way of working, but we're doing our best to ensure that all of the insured parties are duly cared for. The direct effect of the Dana non-consortium has been 34 million euros, 27 Mapfre Spain and 7 Mapfre Re. Well, we are there in Valencia with our people, helping, providing support technically and emotionally to the victims, to the citizens of Valencia. Fernando, whenever you want. Antonio, thank you very much. These numbers, I'm just going to share with you the financial elements for the year. Again, we are going to abide by national legislation per country. So, on screen, you see the breakdown. This is 33.177, practically 1 billion more than in the previous fiscal year, a growth of 2.9%. As to premiums, 4.5 more, over 28 billion, and a slight impact in FX, especially Brazil. Actually, the rate of exchange constant, our premiums would be growing by 6.6%. You see that in blue on screen. You see that on screen, in the middle of the screen. Now, this confirms the trend that we had seen previously, and it's in line, if you will, with our profitable strategy growth that we are deploying in this plan as well as in previous plans. Non-life amount to 22,137 billion, whereas life is practically 6 billion. Growth, well, I'm going to talk in constant 7.6% in the case of non-life and 3% in the case of life. Financial revenues gross are over 3 billion and others 2 billion. On the right-hand side of the screen, you see the breakdown of the main business lines, the main branches, everything growing. You can see solidly, with the exception of savings, and I would underscore risk. On the next slide, you see profits. Non-life on the left, 1.692 billion. I would underscore that increase over 500 million if we compare with the previous year. And this, of course, thanks to earnings in North America, LATAM, and Mapfre Re. Life, then, 71 billion. In this case, a slight drop because of the increase in acquisition expenses and FX in Brazil. Corporate tax amounts to 486, and that represents an effective rate of 24.2%. Externals, and this is, as you can see, what we attribute to our partners in bank assurance, is the amount you see on screen, and the combined effect results in a net profit of 992 billion, and we would subtract our goodwill impairment, so the end number is 902, with that increase of 30% if we compare with the previous year.
I want to remind you that this goodwill impairment, as I said in previous earning results, has no impact on Treasury or solvency or Mapfre's capacity to pay out its dividends. As you know, one of the key determining factors that has an impact is claims. As you know, last year we had two impacts on insured costs, not lives, not lost lives as we had with the Dana. We had the Turkish earthquake and the Otis hurricane in Mexico, which entail about 159 million euro. 2024 has been characterized by an increase in medium insured costs, and I would underscore the Brazilian floods, the Boris storm, which affected Middle Europe, and Dana, which had a net impact on our earnings of 34 million euros. Let's discuss the evolution of our non-life and risk combined ratio in our key areas. So we've got a 3 year long evolution. So general insurance has a wonderful ratio, a reduction of about 7% based on the technical rigor Mapfre is applying, and as I said, the lack of important catastrophes throughout the year. And I would also like to underscore the stability we've had in these 3 years once we finished COVID, and generalist improvement in all markets where we operate. But I would like to underscore Brazil, which has the highest technical profitability from the group. Health and accident has a positive ratio, 98.6. Iberia is at about 97.2%, so we're very happy. And auto, well, it's still improving its ratio, even though we haven't struck 100% equilibrium. But We've gone down 1.4 percent points. We had an improvement in Brazil last year. This year, we had this improvement in North America, where we have a ratio of 101% and an 6% improvement based on technical measures, especially tariffs. We haven't seen this impact with Iberia, with a combined ratio of 105.6%, impacted by the increase of cost and different modifications that we've seen in the body harm, which have affected both previous years as the running year. And we've also had a prudential margin for non-paid claims down to December 2024. If we were to get rid of these two factors, which I've mentioned, the combined ratio, the pro forma combined ratio, would be of about 102%, focusing on the positives. Claims, material damages has been basically stable with some reductions. We've seen a slight reduction based on the cost retention programs we've implemented in Spain. I also wanted to mention that we've reduced our fleet. We've reduced this about 80,000%, 80,000 vehicles, and we've kept on betting on these segments where we are profitable. With these measures, and as we've said, continuous adaptation to risk premiums and expected inflation, we expect to reach a technical equilibrium in the coming quarters. Finally, life risk has very good stable figures and 85.5% of a combined ratio, which is very satisfactory. Premiums and profits based on a business unit basis. Iberia has 3%. We are above 9 billion, and Mapfre has kept its leadership in our key business areas. The positive results, 367 million in earnings with an increase of 1.6%. Need I remind you, 2023 we had wonderful results based on our Bankia alliance. If we were to get rid of this one-off, we would have gone up to 17%, both when it comes to premiums and earnings. We've got about 10 billion euro in premiums, which are divided between Brazil and other Latin America countries. This is insurance. Brazil has kept on showing very solid figures. They've gone above 255 million in earnings, so we have to underscore the technical results and the financial results. Other Latin America countries, premiums have grown over 10%, and the net earnings are above 150 million, and I would like to underscore the contributions from two strategic countries, Mexico and Peru, which have gotten record earnings. We've had wonderful situations when it comes to FX. Mexico has grown 15%, Chile 15%, and Dominican Republic over 10%. Let's go to North America. We've got 2.7 billion in premiums. We've grown 3.2%. We've shown wonderful results, 100 million euros, which can be assigned basically to our U.S. business. Mapfre Re, they've grown 6.7%, close to 8.4 billion, and both units, both reinsurance and global risk, have grown very satisfyingly. Mapfre Re, wonderful results, 325 million, 33% above last year. In this case, backed on the recovery of figures from reinsurance and, as we've said, the absence of relevant catastrophic claims. And as we've said in Iberia, we've kept on reinforcing our prudence levels. And based on this continuous increase of medium what we call secondary perils. On the right-hand side, we have the positive contribution of Modi, which is our assistance business. And I'll very briefly talk about our ratio. Our total assets, 65 billion. Our equity is 8.5 billion, an increase of 5.4%. In this case, based on the retained profits and the stability of these two concepts. So the unrealized capital gains, which is basically stable, and FX rates, which have had an impact of 10 million euro. Let's go to our investment portfolio. It's been boosted by an improvement in our assets. It's grown 4%, and it's above 45 billion euro. Again, it's a cautious portfolio where most are fixed income and similar assets, which represent over 84%. On the right-hand side, you've got our position on public debt, 32 billion, out of which 22.9 billion have been invested in Spanish public debt. When it comes to our assets under management, we've fallen quite a bit. Our pension funds have grown 8.9%, and our investment funds are stable with an increase of 1.4%. We've gone over 59 million assets under management, which means we're up ahead. And I would like to remind all of you that we've got a double regulation that has control over our operations ever since last year. Our listed insurance companies, ever since 2023, Mapfre, we have to present our consolidated result based on IFRS 17 and IFRS 9. Based on that, we have to present our earnings. We've got the same slide which we presented last year, the group's data, and a comparison between IFRS 17 and 9, and homogenized local accounting. And based on our local accounting, these are all of our IFRS information. It's presented to the CNMV as well as on Mapfre's website. Our premiums are not considered an accounting, homogenized local accounting, even though they're the beating heart of this business. IFRS uses income, insurance income. So 25 billion is the financial component of our life and death premiums. We've grown by 3% of our insurance service income. Our net earnings have improved by 42.9%, up to 968 million. Our own equity have grown about as much as local, 5%. And our loan loss provisions, in the case of local accounting, based on different changes and figures, we have to realize that these are discounted, so this is a significantly lower figure. Our contractual service margin, which only exists in the IFRS, shows the deferred profit from our multi-year policies, so this shouldn't go down. So what we assign to this year should be filled up with policies which will be paid out next year. So this fall is based basically on the devaluing of the Brazilian real, and everything else is very close to our business evolution. I'll wrap up, but I would like to very briefly talk about the company's share evolution. We wrapped up by increasing 25%, almost 26%, highly above Stocks Insurance, which encompasses all European insurance companies, as well as IBEX 35, which remained at 15%, 14.8%. And today we've fallen a little bit, but throughout 2025, we had been growing by 15%. Even if we fall today, as long as we're above 13%, I always say that the market rules all, but 2024 and the start of 2025 have been wonderful. That's all my part. Thank you very much, Antonio. Thank you very much, Fernando. And well, I'm going to wrap up this first part of our presentation. As I mentioned earlier, our new strategic plan, which we were starting on with this year, this in 2024, well, it was based on structural changes which we wanted to simplify the company structure. We wanted to make it more agile, more aligned to our business needs. And we wanted to get ready for this new stage, which we expected to lay out the foundation for this general economic situation, which would allow us to get ready for every market where we play a role. And we're happy. I want to say that we're happy because we're meeting all our goals. We've improved our efficiency, we've improved our productivity, and as I said, we've improved our flexibility and how we meet the business needs. So we've taken advantage of all our potential, and we probably still have a long way to go, and we haven't managed to do this in all business. But that's insurance. Insurance is based on diversification, on offsetting and distributing, and one way or another, those are the advantages of Mapfre's model. The compliance with our strategic plan, as we did yesterday in our board meeting, is completely satisfactory. We have to take advantage of the current environment and our current economic situation, but we've also suffered. We've faced difficult situations in the coming years, which we've managed very well. And based on this, our triennial public goals, we believe we're meeting. So constant FX, our growth for 2024 was within our figures, above 6%, and beyond that, our technical ratios, our efficiency ratio, our combined ratio is below our goal, and our return on equity is higher. I won't stop here. I won't dilly-dally, but I want to mention that our public goals related to sustainability, which are the fourth pillar of our strategic plan, have also evolved wonderfully. Our non-financial indicators, which we've presented for the first time, our non-financial report based on our new European reporting regulation, where we have to develop all the components which surround the business and the group and which are as important as financial information. They're very satisfying, and the goals we have, we're very happy. Basically, 2024 has been a historic year, and really, as we said when we presented our strategic plan to our general shareholders meeting in March, we said it was a new paragraph in our history, and we have more ambitious goals. We've grown more than ever, and despite the uncertainty, the key to this is to diversify and distribute our capabilities everywhere where we operate with our own distribution networks and our multi-channel approach and our presence all over the world. We've shown an improvement of our ROE, of our combined ratio, and it isn't enough just yet, but we are being cautious and honest, and we aren't quite there yet when it comes to auto, but we believe that we are going down the right path, and come a few months will show much more satisfying earnings based on what we're seeing in January, we've proven that we're a solvent company, we're an efficient company, we're a company that's strong enough to face the global challenges we're facing. Spain encompasses 30% of our activity. Our actual market is the world. And, well, we are working consistently, and we're working wonderfully. So we've grown well, and we have enough profitability. And beyond that, well, we're close to our customers when they need it. They need us. I was talking about this with Adana, but I could talk about the heartbreaking bushfires in California, where we have people, or basically wherever we find ourselves, our employees, our collaborators are always close to a customer and basically close to people, and we're with them not only based on what we give them, but we're really there emotionally when a person or a family loses everything, not only materially, but when there were deadly casualties. We're people who take care of people, and that's why we'll keep on opening branches. We'll keep on developing our territorial system based on closeness as opposed to other business. And just like other insurers, will be a part of your neighborhood and your country. We've got a sustainable model. We've got a responsible model, and our model is committed to social development in every area. And we're not only keeping this model, but we hope to transform it with digital disruption and new technologies and back innovation, not only using AI, which is the hot topic, but anything else that can help us offer better results. We've got financial and technical muscle, we've got technological muscle, and what we have is big heart and a big brain that we use to think of people. Before we start our Q&A, I would just like to mention something you've probably read in the press release in the release we sent to the CNMV when it comes to the change in people that the decisions the board made yesterday, and the most important one is that our board member Fernando Mato has a few weeks left as a C-level of the group, and this is his last earnings presentation for the group. He will keep on working with us in the board, but by the end of the board, he will stop working as a member. After 30 years with us, these last 10 years, he worked as a financial director, and the last 7 as a board member, and now as Mapfre's vice president. We've proven that people are wonderful, but everyone is replaceable because fortunately, we develop our own talent. We've got a wonderful person, which is my proposal, which is José Luis Jiménez Camalo Fajardo, who will be our new financial director, and he will step into Fernando's shoes. And, well, of course, José Luis Jiménez, who will always be with us, and José Manuel Interte will also be a part of and will be available to you. So, Fernando, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to swallow. Thank you very much, Antonio. It's been a wonderful time for me. It's been a journey I will never forget. And really, to me, it's been an honor, based on what Antonio said, this presence on the board, which Antonio leads, then working with this wonderful team. Most of you are here, and the third and most important one, being a part of Mapfre, being a part of this big family. I'm turning 64. I'm retiring at 64. I'll remain in Mapfre on a non-executive role, and however Mapfre asks me, and I'll give the baton to José Luis, whom I will congratulate in March 2025. And well, I would like to thank you truly, first, for being here, second, your questions, and third, your input, any suggestions you may have, ideas, suggestions, both personally and publicly, to improve transparency and communication to interest groups, and most of all, how well you've treated me. Thank you very much.
Muy bien.
Very good. I think that we can take questions now. Personally, I will miss you very much, yes, but as the Presidente says, this is like the Madrid team. There's wonderful, wonderful players on the team. But yes, thanks are due. Thank you. Please raise your hands. The microphone will be made available. Okay, I can see you. I'm sorry, I cannot really see you, so please let us know who you are. Yes, just 1 second, please, for streaming purposes. Yes, please, the microphone. All right, we begin then. All right, thank you. Back here in the room, Clara Alva from Colpisa Agency. I have a question. I'm not really sure. Maybe you could be specific. When do you think auto insurance will be profitable in Spain? You've talked about upcoming quarters, but 2025, what would you say? And then on the other hand, can you tell us how much the losses are resulting from weather? And could you perhaps let us know about the evolution of this issue? Is there more? Is there less? The Banco de España said that the weather being what it is, mortgages are going to begin to include that risk in their price. So they'll be more expensive, right, in parts of the country that are more exposed to floods. Is this going to happen to insurance companies?
Very good, Laura. Thank you very much for your questions. I'll answer first your auto question, and then we'll talk about our climate-related losses, which we've faced this year. And as you asked, and we'll be able to give some comments on climate change and if that is having an impact on insurance. Auto in Spain, yes. The combined ratio we presented, and well, the technical losses aren't the ones we would like to show this year because, well, we had expectations of moving faster, but the fact of the matter is that the increases after the pandemic, coming from general inflation as well as the auto-related inflation, and how personal tariffs have had an impact. The sector is always lagging when it comes to our premiums and auto and the position we need. I'm not going to analyze if one is better than the other, but I want to tell you that facts don't care about your feelings. We believe we're doing what we believe is right in order to update, and we're being technical in order to be able to deal with what we're seeing and what a lot of people aren't dealing with. In our case, we are adamant that this advancing our provisions that we have to present now, there's a technical loss, will lead us very quickly to an improvement of these results in the coming months. And I wanted to tell you that come January, we had seen an actual improvement. I'm not going to give you any specific figures, but worry not, throughout 2025, we will see significant improvements in our technical earnings and how auto plays a role in Spain. Okay, based on climate-related losses last year, 2023, as I mentioned, we had the Turkish earthquake, which entailed 84 million. 80 were our reinsurance, and 4 was our local company. We had the Mexican hurricane, 75 million, which were for Mapfre Re. And this year, 2024, the most important ones were the Brazilian floods in the first half of the year, out of which Mapfre Re had to deal with 30 million in reinsurance and 4 in global, so 42 million. And in Brazil, 6 in our child company, so 48 million. We had the Boris storm in Middle Europe, 30 million, and the Dana, as Antonio mentioned, 27 million for Iberia and 7 million for reinsurance. Climate events, we try to include them in our fees, and they will increase based on climate change. We are going to be seeing more events, and the amount that is being insured is higher. People want to find themselves in the best positions, in the best location, which is usually beaches, and which are hurricane prone and earthquakes take place. So we've got two effects: higher frequency and our higher insured capital, which will lead us to a higher impact of catastrophes. Yes, I would just like to add that when we talk about Mapfre's economic impact, Dana, people think Dana was nothing, but Dana has been the most damning event. We can't give our estimates as good yet, but we believe that the consortium, which is the one that in the name of the whole private sector is paying, we're talking about a loss of 3 billion with the B euro. That's the impact insurance, because those are fees which we've transferred and which the consortium is handling. So that's the impact. So we're talking about, well, on the one hand, we've got the consortium here in Spain, which everyone wants as the best example of public-private partnership in order to be able to deal or work whenever, in order to help people when these things happen. And then the strength of the private business, that's how we get those fees, which then the consortium gets in order to face these problems. This doesn't happen anywhere else. And we've worked when it comes to reinsurance, and Mapfre works with Mapfre, and we keep our ear close to a pulse, our finger close to a pulse. So we've been working on these climate deviations, which aren't necessarily related to climate change, but there are cycles where there's higher frequency, so insurance has to be ready in order to be able to absorb them, be it through the consortium, be it through our reinsurance systems, which usually work very well. Yes, these claims which we've made public, because we've talked about them because they were very important. We usually have 20 or 30 claims which we handle closely through Mapfre. So we're talking about 250 million. Okay, very good. Julio, please.
Good morning, Julio Munoz from capitalmadrid.com. We've seen that currency effect, right? The FX. I'd like to know what the percentages are, please. I'd like to know how this can actually affect the new measures in view of the Trump administration's comments. And Brazil, when do you think that Brazil will overtake Iberia in terms of profits? And do you think that this is going to be the billion-dollar year? What would you say, please?
Fernando, please. The FX income, as you can see, we only talk about the Riga figure. We're talking about 2.1 percent points. We're going from 4.5. The growth in euro, if we did it in constant currency, would be 6.6. That's the impact on currency when it comes to FX. Well, we've had everything. The Brazilian real devaluation has had a huge impact. The American dollar has increased, and we wanted to talk. We've had an important impact of hyperinflationary economies in Argentina and Turkey in the past and this year, given this asymmetry between inflation and FX has been a positive impact. And in both hyperinflationary economies, we've had an impact of 70 million. As far as Trump is concerned, do you dare, Chairman? He's still strong. He's still going strong, but I have no crystal ball, no Palantir, so we are ready. We have a very strong portfolio in Latin America, and we're there in considering 4 to 5 years, medium term. We can guarantee the result in 14 to 20 month long. In any case, Mapfre has a natural hedge. We don't have to buy FX coverage, how our business is distributed with euro, dollar, and emerging currencies. So, of course, an impact on Latin America currencies has a positive impact on dollars. So our presence in the States is possible. So that's Mapfre's diversification. That's really what works so well. As far as your question, Julio, on Brazil, I must admit, for the first time, that Brazil is already making Mapfre Spain for a long time. Our Brazilian profitability is huge, but we're lucky enough to have a wonderful partner who takes a relevant part of our profits. But Mapfre is 100% of the fees, but it doesn't represent 100% of our income. So we don't have to wait for Brazil to go over Spain. We've got 200 million, so it's a huge difference. Like, there are many more million in Brazil, many more million people in Brazil, and they've got a low insurance penetration. So we believe that Brazil is going to be it's going to be bigger. And as for the billion, well, we'll see. We believe that this year we find ourselves in the billion. It's not what we're gunning for. It's positive in any case. This is going to. We've got a volatile business by definition. Insurance is volatile by definition, and we expect to make more money and based on what might happen. But stability is also something that we'll see in the coming 2 years because we're very strict. Valero?
Well, first and foremost, congratulations to Fernando Mata, who is now rid of us. I'd like to say thank you very much. I feel that you've treated us very well, as have other CFOs. Now, 2 questions. That new dividend, which is not a premium, right, in a traditional way, it's a dividend which is going to be paid out to all shareholders if and when there be more than, I think it was 71%. And my second question, I think, is a straightforward one. You have not given information about health in Spain. I'm not sure whether Mufase has affected us. How many civil servants have approached Mapfre to ask for health care? I'm asking about the new agreement. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you contemplating the possibility of returning to another different model?
Thank you, Miguel Angel. Based on the participatory dividend you've mentioned, this is something new for us as well. As you mentioned, this is a dividend that tries to incentivize participation, because one of the expectations Mapfre has for the coming years is to incentivize the participation of minority shareholders in our activities. So we believe that having a main shareholder many times could lead to think that Mapfre's thoughts is to not take into account minority shareholders. It's never what we wanted, and we've always wanted to prove not only to the media, but to our analysts and investors that is not the fact. And we want to make sure that minority shareholders feel important to us. They're not minority shareholders; they're shareholders. So, as much as we can foster that is more difficult, because physical attendance in a company like ours, where you have shareholders all around the world, is impossible. But technology allows for telematic assistance and vote delegation. And as you've said, we are not. This is a dividend. This isn't an assistance premium. But we're just saying that if we have a specific percentage, which will change in order to ensure shareholders play a higher role, we believe that it's a modest, prudent concept to ensure they're involved and to show that Mapfre fosters this participation. As far as Mufase, I don't have the figures right now in my mind, but no, we aren't. We are worried as Spanish citizens. The crisis that we've had over our civil servant insurance, we believe that this uncertainty isn't good for anyone. We believe that the model might not be the best one, and it should evolve in the coming years in order to guarantee the model stability and proper funding. But this has had a huge impact in the sector, and and the companies that were Mapfre isn't going to be there, as you know, because we're leaving mutual, but all those that could be there, but in the hospital and medical sector, and well, the huge amount of doctors and civil servants who still prefer private insurance instead of our public health. Mapfre is monitoring these figures. We will keep our eye on the ball. Because, as you know, well, we have to take a look at the actual wording to see if we do this or not. In any case, we believe we shouldn't participate because we believe that the system wasn't enough and the lack of premiums led to continuous losses. They already were 12, 13 years when we were there, and they've just worsened in these coming years. We always talk about Iberia, Spain, and Portugal, even though it's usually health and insurance. And the growth is 7.5. I believe that in health we find ourselves in that 7%. And it makes no sense to ask civil servants forward to come here, and this should be a marginal. The amount of civil servants who've hired us is marginal. Okay, very good. Any more questions, Rafa?
Hola.
Good morning. It seems that we don't want to talk about President Trump. I'm going to, yeah, we would talk about him, yes. No, let me word it differently. Do you think that these geopolitical changes that have taken place over the past few months, do you think they're going to affect the activities performed by a multinational such as yours, which has a presence in so many different countries? And then another issue or question. You've talked about the consortium in glowing terms today, but before the flash floods, the Dana, you asked about it. You asked about a possible reform. Do you still believe that the consortium needs to be reformulated?
Yes, Rafael, thank you very much. President Trump is the legitimate president with the highest electoral support ever since World War II. So let's hope that his decisions are good or very good for the American economy, and let's hope that they aren't harmful for other countries where we work. We don't produce goods, so we don't export nor import. So in that respect, well, his tariffs, which are the ones that are more eye-catching, shouldn't affect us. Of course, the reinforcement of the American economy will probably be good for the States, and it'll probably be very good for other American partners. So we have to find ourselves, if we want to be a friend of the States, to take advantage of this economy, or if we want to find ourselves in a different situation. As far as Latin America is concerned, there are countries that really depend on the North American economy and the evolution of and development of the investment policies they have. But mostly I'm optimistic, and I believe that this will help the Western society by taking advantage of private economy will be good for everyone. Geopolitical changes affect Mapfre, of course. If there isn't any basic economic development, well, there's less access to insurance. But we believe that wherever we find ourselves, be it Latin America and more emerging countries, there are so many incentives which are usually enough, and the need to have insurance is so high, we will still have room for improvement, as we've seen this year in Latin America, in all countries, really. It's important, and we've actually made a relevant choice this year, which is based on the positive evolution we've seen in Colombia, which wasn't that visible. We believe that Colombia is a country with a bright future, and we're going to make it more visible, and we believe that this is a market where we could do more, as we do with Brazil, Mexico, and Peru. And it's really important, and we expect other countries to follow this line. As for the consortium, Rafael, I can say, well, I'm a firm believer in the good of the consortium, but Mapfre and the sector, we are also aware, and I believe that within the government, the consortium was born in 1954. I wasn't born yet. So it's social economic evolution of the climate events we've been seeing aren't have nothing to do with what we had 40 to 50 years ago. Filomena, the consortium paid nothing, and it was up to now, up to the Dana, it was the most expensive insurance event. So it's very difficult to explain to citizens that the water that comes from the air isn't covered by the consortium, but the one that comes, so everything that comes from your ceiling, which is paid by your insurance company, but if water goes from the street into or hail or how it operates, because in the Dana we had to acknowledge the huge effort the consortium made to take advantage of the huge resources we have and expert witnesses and technical capacity to ensure that the consortium, because the consortium can't really be ready for an event such as this. So it is true, we believe that they're playing a huge role in the Dana, but we do want them to go over the work conditions in the future to make it more stable and to make it interact better with private companies for their development. Okay, thank you very much, Pablo.
Hola,
Pablo Ferrer from Hispanidad. I have a straightforward question. Could you discuss the evolution of Mapfre's agreement with the Santander Bank in Spain? What is the weight in the insurance company in our country?
Well, I think these are public figures. We can talk about them. We're very happy with how we work with Banco Santander. We have what we have. We'd like to have more, but they have other insurance partners, and both in auto, reverse mortgages, and other products we're studying. And SMEs, we believe they have a higher capacity to offer more insurance capacity, but their structures don't have to align at all times with what Mapfre. We've got a wonderful relationship, and well, our business plans, even though we're not complying, we're very happy. Yeah, we are at about 120 million with auto and SMEs and reverse mortgages, because we've been working on this for a few months, and we've got about 200 mortgages. But that was the plan. We've started little by little with reverse insurance, with reverse mortgages, and now, as you know, we find ourselves in a more relaxed environment. But this wasn't a product where we were going to undertake thousands and thousands of reverse mortgages. Okay, Oscar, it's you. Go.
Thank you. From The Economista. I'd like to talk a little bit about autos, car insurance, please. I would like to know a little bit more about the measures that have begun to be implemented to correct, if you will, the effects of the scales. So, what are the increases? I would imagine that those measures will address increases in the scale. What have these increases been? And as to risk, Fernando Mata said, I think it was when addressing the first half of the year, he talked about some riskier businesses, fleets, for instance. Could you talk a little bit about the evolution therein? And thank you in advance.
Es importante.
Yes, the most relevant impact I wasn't talking about social inflation. Social inflation is the adequacy of your referent to both structurally and cost to vulnerable people after an accident. So we're not going to compare ourselves. When we compare to our peers, we adequate this increase. What happens is that when we pay a policy for, let's say, 2020, for example, for that insurance, if the accident takes place in 2020, but at the end, the medical report, usually neurological damage, is drafted in 2024, and you'd be surprised by how long. It isn't paid with 2020, which is where we had the rate. It's with 2024. That's what's called social inflation. We've been reflecting this in our figures as time went on with the final neurological damage, and we've included. That's why we were talking about. That's why we say it has an impact from previous years. So we have to take a look at how this will have an impact on our fees. Fees have grown about 9%. We have it in our public information, which we'll share in the analyst meeting, and it has fallen in units about 3%, and the median premium is a sum of both aspects. But the premium is always personalized, so we always pay based on a risk. So there are people who will have increases below 9% or even no increase, and people who have a higher increase. As far as fleets, Mapfre has always been in fleets. This impact from our social cost has already been relevant for fleets. So what we've done is we've reduced, I talked this, 80,000 vehicles in any fleet where we haven't had the chance to undertake any management, technically speaking, or we don't have the logistics. But Mapfre will keep on being a fleet player, and what we've done is reduce this exposure between 20 and 25% in our fee increase. As far as the future is concerned, Mapfre always wants to grow, and we want to grow in premiums and units as far as we have this commercial drive, and as much as we can get new business, Mapfre will keep its leading business in auto. We worry not. Yes, no. I just want to remind you that how we decide our fees here at Mapfre is very complicated. There aren't any linear increases. We don't have standard conditions. Not even for everyone, but for similar profiles. Our fees are completely bespoke because based on the tools we have as of today, we can apply these fees. It is true that we always have risk mutualization. If everyone paid what they have to, there would be very cheap insurances and very expensive insurance, and we would exclude people who wouldn't be able to afford it. So insurance has a social role, and we have to offer solutions, technical solutions to everyone. That's what Mapfre wants to do. Basing these, and the fact of the matter is that this is it. But as I said, these figures don't worry us because we believe we're doing what's right. That risk diversification, not only with Spain's good results, but with our business distribution. So the figure has to be enough, and we believe that the fact of the matter is that the economy, inflation, second, third round, we all have to pitch in to manage this. And customer auto retention in Spain is wonderful for Mapfre here in Spain. They assume increases whenever they take place, however they take place, and we're very happy because that's our first goal, and we've got the biggest auto portfolio in the world, and we have to take care of them because the loyalty they've shown throughout the years, they have to be compensated one way or another from a technical point of view to ensure that they're very satisfying. Thank you very much.
Por favor.
Thank you. Oscar, in the back of the room, please. Good morning. Oscar Jimenez from El Confidencial. I'm going to insist a little bit on autos. You said that you don't want to talk about a timeline specifically, but for the past few years, we've seen increases, not only in Mapfre, increases. So are you going to continue to raise prices above inflation levels? What is your forecast? And now health. There are complaints, if you will, Mufase, the increase in costs. In your case, specifically, have you experienced this? Have you seen an increase? Is your forecast for an additional increase beyond inflation policies too? And then investments-wise, assets under management, are you satisfied? And last year, remember the funds from last year, have you prioritized other products, or what would you say?
Oscar, I'll start with auto, which, well, we've already discussed it, but I want to make sure it's clear. These increases aren't aligned directly with inflation or the specific economic situations. They depend on evolution. If we can ensure that there aren't as many dangerous accidents, well, it means that fees will be better for everyone. As far as we can prevent the fraud, now let's help making the company more efficient, which Mapfre always includes to ensure that these fees don't reflect undesired costs that have an impact on the customer. So talking about when increase will stop, this has always happened and which will keep on happening, which is sufficiency, is in order to ensure that the amount we get is enough to cover what we believe will happen, which can happen this year or 4 years down the line. That's a magic box, which is wonderfully handled by our actuaries and which has, well, it has room for improvement. And if you make a mistake, you'll have to adapt better or these updates. So this isn't based on our current situation, but really it's a continuous process which we'll keep on seeing, and that it ensures that better customers have higher fees. And well, that's the fact of the matter. And yeah, no, as far as investment is concerned, we're very happy with our investment results. We have a prudent portfolio, and as I've said, it's very similar to what we had seen last year. What happens with investment funds? With the new IFRS regulations, investment funds aren't an amicable product for insurance because it leads us to take a look at in a different way. Local systems allow you to take a look at the profits and losses. So what we've done is we've exposed ourselves less to variable income funds, and instead of having funds managed by Mapfre, we invest directly in variable income. If we invest directly, I can do it with my own equity. If I do it through an investment fund, which is similar to fixed income under our current regulation, it makes me take a look at this based on our profit loss. So we've ensured to not have any volatility in our earnings. So investment funds for third parties are very much accepted by physical people and other entities. But Mapfre, as of today, would tell you that we are investing less in investment funds based on what we've been doing with IFRS. You had a question on health. Well, really, health inflation is something we all know because it's above regular inflation, and those increases in cost based on a higher incidence of private medicine and technology is amazing, and they're more expensive, even though they're much better, and they have a wonderful position. They have a wonderful impact on our citizens' health. So this means that they found themselves in a difficult position, and it isn't comparable to the overall health sector with what has happened with Mufasa. We believe we're doing everything fine. We believe that we have reasonable earnings, which are always improvable, but reasonable. And we expect that the private aspect is still, but the internal, we know nothing about Mufesu internally except Mojeju, but that was a very small slice of customers, so we can't really extrapolate. But the Spanish health sector, Muface is healthy, it's still growing, and customers really like it. As we know, our NPS is wonderful.
Muy bien, Miguel.
Thank you very much. Miguel, please, in the back. And then Manuel. Good morning. I'm Miguel from Cinco Dias. Could you clarify some of the components regarding the P&L? I would like for you to add a little bit of information. When you talk about the adjustments, the German goodwill issue, why have you had to do that? And then the arbitration, Bankia arbitration, I would like to know why has that impacted the numbers? We knew about that 2 years back. And then a third question about Mufasa. I don't know. I have the feeling that you have opened the door to the possibility of returning after your statement from a couple of months ago. The chair was very clear about never returning, and I'm getting the feeling that there is a possible return.
Lo de Mufasa y luego
Well, start with Mufasa and then we'll talk about our fund and what you want about Bankia. Okay, Miguel, no, I'm not opening any doors. I'm just saying we've seen a collection of changes in the conditions based in what the government's been covering. So I believe it's fair that we can gauge them. I'm not saying we're stepping in, but we have to know them. We're an important player in the health insurance sector, so it would be irresponsible not to take into account the conditions the government's offering. But we have a purely technical outlook, and we won't do anything that really can endanger the technical position of the matter. And, well, we are very happy. Again, we are gauging it, but I'm not opening any more doors than what we have, and I think we already have to know these conditions. Yes, in Germany, we had a goodwill. We had goodwill of about 15 million. And Germany, this is our business profile on the table. It's a single business, single channel. So we've got digital auto, and Germany has undergone a huge. All companies, big and small, have undergone a huge problem, and it's very difficult. We haven't diversified, and we can't offset it with more positive businesses. So in this line, the future business expectations were conditioned by how the business was behaving. Mapfre can't really move the sector. We are what we are. And when we think about all this information, so in this situation, what we did, we were very cautious. We could have waited to see what the situation was. We cleaned out the fund, about 80% of its valuation, in order to make our position better. What we did last year, 2 years ago in the States, this doesn't mean that we aren't committed to keep on backing Germany, nor the expectation that Germany is going to make money. Obviously, we have very important situations, but it will take us some time based on our position in the market. Based on Bankia's arbitrage, I'm sorry, if we take a look at the comparisons, last year we had an impact on arbitrage, on Bankia's arbitrage, so arbitration, which we haven't had this year. So the increase of our nominal profit, if we hadn't had the Bankia arbitration, we would have had 17%. So the recurring results, earnings, we've grown by 17%, even though the figure shows a different situation. Okay, we had 2 more questions. 3, 4.
Yes? Yes, thank you. I am Antonio de Miguel from Seguros magazine. And I'd like to say thank you for the invitation. And I'd like to furthermore congratulate Mapfre and this gentleman who is about to embark on the same journey I'm going to embark on. We've talked recurrently about an issue, and I'm going to insist on fraud specifically, auto. So these types of wily behaviors, well, we have to foot the bill. It's what happens in supermarkets, for instance. So, Mapfre, have you monitored what distribution or sales channel is less combative with regards insurance? So, direct line, the distributors, agents. What would you say?
Well, Antonio, you called it sleaziness, but it's a crime because they want to they want to trick their insurance company. This isn't slide. They're little tricks which aren't acceptable. The necessary cost for this investigation is absurd, but there are huge frauds. There are gangs, and there are crimes that are undertaken to take advantage of the financial capacity of the sector. And I've devoted 2/3 of my life to auto insurance. So if there's something you can do when it comes to auto insurance management to ensure that the few don't ruin it for the many, we have to ensure that we train socially and that we teach, which UNESPA has tried to do many times with campaigns and individually. All companies, Mapfre does it, not only in Spain, but all around the world. But there's an internal prep work that the companies can undertake. We have to develop very sophisticated systems, and we can add that sophisticated because they allow you to use tools that come the future will use AI to detect illegitimate practices and which could be crimes. So we can't really that they are what they are, and they have an additional cost because everything you pay irregularly and which shouldn't be paid, well, at the end of the day, leads to the fee sufficiency, it goes to the fees that are divided among everyone. So that is what it is. So based on what channels could be more inducive to or more related to fraud, there aren't any direct assessment channels, and they're all managed by wonderful professionals, and they have to help customers and they have to help the company in order to legitimately pay for what we've hired. And insofar as there are digital tools and phone tools that have less control, this can lead to the fraud and crimes that we have more crimes to deal with. So we would have to develop more sophisticated measures to detect it. But again, they're all part of this process, which we believe is the best to assess in order to try and find and give our customer what they want and what they ask for.
Yes, please, Chicote. Good morning. I'm Manuel Chicote from Aseguranza. I have two questions. The market is beginning to talk, especially risks that have to do with corporate and so on, the arrival of a soft market. Is there more competitiveness? Is this going to affect Mapfre's results, the earnings, which have been fantastic? And my second question about the Dana flash floods, I would like to know about UNESPA. Have things worked out? Do you believe that you should continue along these lines? Is there a model, perhaps, to bring forward the payments? Thank you.
Yes, Manuel. Well, the soft market depends on which business and which product. We've talked about auto insurance with inflation and health insurance. I don't know what you mean when you talk about a soft market, and given the amount of climate-related events and damage as well, this will have an impact on reinsurance companies, and it had a big impact on many companies that had to leave, or they had to be much more cautious when it came to playing a role in reinsurance. Mapfre was very careful, and not only did they not do that, but we expanded our capital in order to take advantage of the increase of fees all around the world in order to take advantage of this more mature system. So this is a cyclical market, and the liability market is completely different, and it's affected by what's happening in the States. But really, the damages business, it responds to everything, every situation, and you can reach a peak at a global level. And the trends we've been seeing lately, well, we must be aware of what we're doing and offer more appropriate conditions, so we can't really increase everything. But we have to manage this carefully. So the market is still has high fees, so it will help Mapfre to have wonderful results. But we have to choose our battles. We have to pick our battles in order to ensure that companies with worse risk profiles take advantage of this more benign market. And well, Dana, it's an agreement between UNESPA and the consortium, and companies agree with what UNESPA signed, and UNESPA has the sector's full backing. And we believe we believe that UNESPA did everything we asked. Not everything, but we believe that, as Manuel said, we would want for these to be recurring, and they are part of stable protocols to ensure that any climate event that takes place here or that is managed under the coverage of the consortium can have this homogeneous treatment to ensure that, and of course to ensure how we can simplify interpretation and which conditions.
Las dos últimas preguntas.
The two final questions, please. I think you're Mario, right? Yes, yes. I am still Mario. Mario Betancourt from Agencia F. I have two questions. My first question is there an explanation regarding the performance of the share with these fantastic earnings, but share prices are less ever since the beginning of the session? And these earnings, are you contemplating perhaps increasing the company's perimeter? Are you going to buy anything?
Our stock recovering, the sovereign market. I always like to wait for a couple of days, especially when we talk about the American market. The financial investors are the same ones, and if they see the slightest cloud in the sky when there's a revaluation of 15% in 10 days, well, they tend to sell. I don't want that trend. I said if we fall a little, well, it doesn't really matter because in 13 days we'll have grown 13 to 14%. So I would like to tell you, wait for 2 days. We've had a good system. We're beating the consensus. We've been above consensus for 3 months, and now we are above our book value. We're 8.6 billion. So our shares will grow, and as long as we grow and we've got better results, obviously, this has had a huge impact on our earnings, between 30 to 40% based on the earnings we're seeing. But we want to keep on we want to keep these trends in the future, right? And well, and the four shareholders that get nervous whenever we have earnings, they've taken advantage of the latest rally in the last couple of weeks, because we'll keep on having good results. As far as the company perimeter, the perimeter is what it is, and we never ignore being able to expand this because our transformation basis has always been based on the inclusion of new businesses and with other distributors and new businesses. So we are open to anything, and we've focused on our business, which is what we control and the one we know. We're focusing on the countries where we are, which is where we have enough levers to grow, and the need to grow in the key markets. I was talking about key countries, and I've talked today about an additional country, which is Colombia. We have nothing in mind for Colombia. Of course, we don't think we're going to buy anything, but we believe that the social, economic, and our business in Colombia would allow us to do more. Colombia was the second country we ever did business in. It was Argentina and then Colombia. So we've always loved it. It's not something we just discovered. In any case, we're open, and we want to offset our portfolio between life and non-life, and we want more distributing business partners that bring us. So we're talking banks, retailers, and of course, by hoping on our improving of our own channels, be it agents or brokers. but we have no will to increase our perimeter if we don't meet the right conditions. But of course, we're always gauging everything ahead. Okay, last question.
A question at the back of the room. I'm sorry, you are? Good morning, I'm Elena from El Español. I have a question now. As a businessman, what is your assessment regarding the reduction in the working hours, a new government decision, less than 40 hours? I would like to know what is your opinion, how it's going to affect large corporations and smaller companies as well.
Well, and I had already talked about this. I played a role in Yolanda Diaz's call and we told the vice president that we had already implemented the 37.5 reduced day because this isn't a daily, so we can adjust our weekly work basis, our workday. But Mapfre's position, and it's not the same one. We've got 3 million SMEs who need oxygen in order to keep on growing. So I walk a lot in my free time, and I walk a lot in Madrid, which is where I live. And of course, I'm lucky enough to work in Mapfre, and I means that I'm lucky enough to be able to walk at an early hour. But there are SMEs that open up until from the crack of dawn to the end of the day, and they have their business and they run it as best they can in order to be profitable. It's going to be very difficult for them to reduce those work days immediately. We've always said that this has to be a gradual exercise, and we have to take a look at this on a business by business basis, and we have to take a look at the seasonality of businesses. Coffee shop specializing in breakfast isn't the same to a restaurant specializing in dinner and other businesses, so we have to be very prudent. And any improvement to our work-life balance is very good. So again, we defend it, but we have to be very, very careful with the business who are taking advantage of the positive economic situation in our country in order to not have this taken back. And we all want to bet on moving towards these shorter work days, but I think we have to be cautious. Okay, well, we have a meeting with analysts at 12:30, so please join us for a coffee upstairs. Thank you very much for joining us and your questions. And now, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask us. Thank you very much.